Hi. I don't normally post on this YouTube channel, but I figured I'm going through something and it's stressful and complicated, and maybe I can be of help to someone else out there in the universe, on this planet. Hello, future self, and anyone else. Two weeks ago, like last month, in February, I found out that I was accepted as a research student at a university in Japan. And 2 weeks ago, at the beginning of March 2022, the government of Japan set out new guidelines for people coming into the country, and it included me. So in a very short amount of time, it's been 15 days, I've had to do quite a bit, and I'm just gonna explain what's going down. So I received a lot of paperwork from my university, and it was very overwhelming. I can't really read on my computer, so I printed a lot of it out. I have tabs, I have notes, I have a highlighter, I have sticky notes, and I am still figuring out what exactly I'm supposed to be doing, but we're getting somewhere, maybe. So if you find yourself in the same situation that I was in 2 weeks ago, I'm gonna break down what you actually need to enter Japan as a student, because I wish this video had existed 2 weeks ago. Okay, so first things first, how vaccinated are you? Because your level of vaccination is one of the determinants of whether or not you quarantine and for how long and where. Another factor is where you're coming from. I'm coming from the US and Canada. I am triple vaccinated as of last week, and so I don't think I have to quarantine. There's a whole, this guy that explains the country and regions that you're from, and there's a website that says whether or not your country is designated or not. That designated or not designated thing really confused me. So designated means that you're more likely to quarantine, and if it's not designated, then you're not really going to quarantine, depending on your vaccination level. So it says, first category is, right, this box right here. First category, it says from countries or regions designated in response to the Omicron coronavirus variants, right? So then if you're from that list of designated countries, and it's a list, it's a very big, very confusing webpage that isn't as straightforward as you would expect. You really have to read, and there's a lot of text, and there are a lot of grids. If you're easily overwhelmed, like I was, just search your country's name and see how many times it shows up and where and what it says next to your country's name. Control or Command F. And then, so if you are designated and it'll say like designated or off the designated list or no longer designated, then you go to your vaccination level. Do you have all 3 vaccinations? No. Then you self-quarantine at a hotel. And if yes, you self-quarantine at home for 7 days. Now, if you're from one of the countries or regions other than designated in response to the Omicron coronavirus variants, and you're not fully vaccinated, you don't have all 3, then you self-quarantine at home. If you do have all 3, then Japan is your oyster, frolic as you will. So once you figure that out, figure out how long you quarantine, where you quarantine, etc., etc., to get your visa paperwork in order. And part of that is obviously the form to enter Japan, right? It looks like the title just says form to enter Japan. And you fill all of that out, your name, passport number. You don't have to book a flight, like it asks for your flight information, but you don't actually book your flight, because just don't do that. Just say what airport you will most likely be landing in and what airline you'll probably be using and what day you will most likely arrive. You do not need to book your flight. That is expensive and scary, or at least for me. Or you can if you have like great travel insurance. The address of where you're going to stay, where you're going to quarantine, if you need to quarantine, and then your current address, your occupation, the address of your employer. I'm a student, so I put my university. And then on the second page, which is kind of, for me it was a touch confusing because I've never seen this on a visa document before. Like it says your guarantor, which is essentially like whose custody of you, or who's like what person is responsible for you. So I put my head professor. I had to ask because I asked the university. I was like, I don't know what you want me to put here. Do I put the university or do I put someone specific? Because it asks for like their date of birth and their gender and their nationality. And then it says your inviter, which also confused me because I'm like, I'm a student. No one's inviting me. I have things to do. So I put my university. And then you sign it and then you move on with your life. The next document you need is your certificate of eligibility, and this is something that you need an original document of. Let me see what I can, it kind of looks like this, right? So this is an official government document that was mailed to me from Japan, to my home. You have to apply for this. The school sort of, the person that's inviting you, whether it's school or work, has to apply for this for you. Like you give them all of the information and then they say, thanks, we'll get back to you. And you have to submit the original document. So you have to wait for that document to arrive at your address, wherever you live. And that is not negotiable. Well, I mean, it is negotiable, but you very much need it. And then the next document that I didn't realize I needed was this ERFS Certificate of Registration of the ERFS. It's like this new, I don't know what it is, but it looks like this. At least mine looks like this. And it's the same as the COE, the Certificate of Eligibility, wherein you give your school or your employer the information and they apply for you. And it says, essentially, it just has your general information, where you'll be staying, who's hosting you, things like that, when you expect to land, et cetera, et cetera. Because I'm a student, I have my acceptance letter from the university, and I have a copy of my passport, and I have the verification for my shots. And to be honest, it's a lot more cut and dry than I anticipated. I've done student visas for Denmark and for South Africa, and those were significantly more stressful. I was stressed out at how simple it was, this particular process. Everything else is scary, but gathering your documents for the visa, it happened very quickly, and it happened pretty seamlessly outside of my own stupidity. So yeah. So you gather all your documents. I'm submitting these documents tomorrow at the consulate, excuse me. And then I go through these papers. You need a smartphone, because there's an app you have to download at the airport that sort of, it tracks you and you log how you're feeling, essentially. You have to reserve a hotel, have a smartphone. When you get your visa back, book your flight. And you have all of your paperwork. Oh, this is great. Look at you go. And then you need to monitor yourself before you go. Get COVID tested with like 72 hours before departure. I think you have to take a PCR test. I think you can do either, but I think it's the PCR. I think you can do either, but depending on which test you take, it changes the amount of time you have to use it. And I think the PCR test is 72 hours. Like you can take it 72 hours before you leave. You need to take out medical insurance. you have to have some sort of coverage of some sort. And usually if you're going through a university, they'll help you set that up. I am working on it. And then they ask you to bring mask and facial coverings. And then there's this other thing that you need, and it's when you get to the airport. So this is not visa paperwork. It's just when you get to your port of entry, you need all of these papers. And the first one is this written pledge. It says written pledge for individuals. It's in English and in Japanese, and you're supposed to fill it out when you get there, and I think you're supposed to have it on you. And then, so there's the written pledge, and then there's this questionnaire. And you complete this in advance. Which is, you know, it is what it is, but do the thing. When you have the information, do the thing. And then that's all I have. And I hope I'm not doing it wrong, because I could be doing it wrong. I hope I'm not doing it wrong. And yeah, I would also, and this is just from my own experience and the way Japan is set up, if you're a student going to study in Japan, I would bring a copy of all of your diplomas, your transcripts, like physical, not electronic, real ones, and always keep a copy of your passport and any visa documentation, physical copies. So if anybody asks, you have them. I learned that the hard way, only once. You take a PCR test when you land, and you have to wait until you get your results. And you shouldn't go anywhere while you're waiting. Do not peruse around the airport while you're waiting for your results. And then your school should sort of help you walk through what to do as you go. I hope someone out there in the universe finds this helpful. I would say if you have any questions, ask me, but even me, I have questions. Oh, there's another document that you might want to have ready when you get to the airport. My school sent this to me. And it says it's the application for permission to engage in activity other than that permitted under your visa. And this is essentially, if you're a student and you want to have a part-time job, I think you need this. And you can submit this at the airport. You don't have to, but I'm pretty sure it's easier to do it at the airport. Like, it goes a lot faster and you don't have to wait for Japanese bureaucracy to do its thing. If you don't, then I think you have to go through like the local government, wherever you're going to be. And I've heard it takes longer and it's less pleasant, to say the least. So yeah, that's all I know. And these are the stacks. These are the 2 stacks of documents I have, so that I don't mess up. There it is. If you found this helpful, it's rough. I know. I'm so stressed, and it's so fast. Everything is happening so fast. Yeah, if you found this helpful, or if you know something I don't, please tell me. Make copies of everything, always. Just to be triple, quadruple safe. All right, I'm done. Thanks for watching. Bye. Jesus, I've got so many to-do lists. I just keep making new ones.